Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final PowerPoint lecture video for Health and Wellness Kinesiology 344 for our Health and Wellness class at Concordia University for the spring semester. And we're going to finish talking about spiritual and total well-being and trying to do our best to combine those concepts to create something that can be used for us down the road to help you create essentially your well-being diet, your handbook that you're essentially from a very small perspective standpoint, not creating a textbook, but certainly getting a good guide for what to do with the information. And that is always the end goal of anything that we learn, isn't it? Trying to figure out how we can implement it, how we can utilize it, how we can best make use of it for future use, not just something that's just knowledge, something we can apply, something we can evaluate, something we can grow from. So that is the goal. And that being said, talking about spiritual and total well-being and tying together our overall concepts now of our wholeness wheel of all these different aspects of well-being and how spiritual well-being ties it all together, and remembering what our entire purpose is from the standpoint of living a life well lived, something that God would expect from us. And that being said, let's talk a little about we talked about spiritual well-being already, and there's our definition to remind us in creating purpose in life and adding to our relationships and our values. And now we're going to tie that together for well-being as it relates to our intellectual well-being, vocational well-being, and our financial well-being. So starting with our intellectual well-being, experiencing spirituality and connection to God through and with, for intellectual well-being, active participation and engagement in activities that stimulate knowledge and skill in order to lead a stimulating, successful life. It's often been said that nothing good comes easy. I would think that God would agree with that. Nothing worthwhile that we actually can achieve will be easy to gain. Sometimes things seem easy, and I always get a little uneasy when things get easy because I feel like either I didn't deserve something that came to me, that I should have been working harder to get it, or that there's something else that's challenging that follows it. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be happy and okay with and pleased with something did come easy. It's really nice when it does, but we have to remember that around the corner there's always more challenges. And just the mere acceptance and the recognition of that makes so many tasks and responsibilities, duties, normal actions in life just that much easier. But in terms of standpoint of actually increasing our intellectual well-being, we want to be talking about active intellectual pursuits that stimulate our curiosity, make us curious, and leads us to greater motivation to try new things. The more curious we are, the more we want to try new things and learn about why something is. I've always had, it seems like at least one student in every class, for the most part, who asks questions that are very deep. That person's thinking very deeply. Sometimes it's more than one person. Sometimes it's people who are thinking it, they're just not actually acting upon it. And that is a great reminder for all of us, whether we actually voice those questions, those wants to know more, to understand more. The importance is that we're always asking ourselves that. If we are truly being in the moment and truly being in the now and actually really thinking about what the most we can get from the situation, not thinking about something else, that is where we grow intellectually. That's where we get the most from whatever situation we're involved in. And that is easy for us to fall off and to find other opportunities for something else to be focusing on. It's in order for us to create a greater understanding of our lives and what's going on in our lives, we have to be present and have a better relationship with God, with others, and the environment. We have to be building that sense of self. To build that sense of self requires in the moment. You can't just reflect upon something. You can't really fully reflect upon something and learn from something if you weren't there in the first place, if you were someplace else. And a lot of times that goes with not so much looking for something to be what we want it to be, but allowing it to be what it is, to just be in the moment, and then things happen. I'm pretty sure I mentioned in class at one point, Bill Gates is often fond of saying, Bill Gates, who obviously does pretty well for himself, and has done pretty well for himself over the years, and now gives back tremendously so, as he said he would. A lot of people didn't believe him. They thought he was going to be pursuing his own financial wellness and his own work goals, his own pursuit of dominance of the market in terms of technology, when he has turned it in the toward the goal of actually bettering aspects of society and areas of where people one, don't have the capacity to be able to handle, and few people could. And he's using that now, and in the way that he said that he would, which has always been pretty impressive to me. One of the things he said, which I thought was great, was that you need to look for opportunities in everything, because often opportunity is disguised as something else. You need to be open to new ideas at times when you don't want to be, when there are places you'd rather be or doing something else, because those are the moments that can change you. Those are the moments that provide you with something that you weren't expecting, that may give you that extra something you were looking for in the first place without looking for it. Just opening yourself up to what's happening in front of you. Uh, and that said, creative endeavors require relaxed focus. If we're really going to get the most out of anything we're trying to be creative with, we have to be relaxed and allowing things to happen to some extent. Focusing, but at the same time, not forcing something. When you try to force creativity, in my experience, anyone who's ever tried to force creativity just meets frustration. Creativity has to happen. You have to be excited and enthusiastic and involved and interested and curious, all those things. And kids do that all the time, making things a game. And people and adults often say that children learn things better than kids do, than adults do. They learn faster. Sometimes they do, but they do it not because of some greater intellectual capacity. They do it because they're making it a game. They enjoy it. They're not distracted by other things. One of the greatest challenges as we grow older, as we grow in responsibility, as we grow in varied interests, all those things, is the importance of remembering to be curious, remembering to be in the moment so that we can make things a game and get the most from them, to enjoy them, so we can explore greater ideas and concepts, take breaks in nature, ourselves to allow ourselves to run wild, so to speak, to be able to allow ourselves to access more and something more. That said, scholastic endeavors and achievement remind us in working hard to get a better grade or do well in a class, let alone at work later in life. But scholastic endeavors in general, for the short term, or something that improves the learning of someone else, provides us simply the quality of hard work. I don't believe and never have believed in the idea of doing work for work's sake alone with no benefit toward something. There has to be something, there's a purpose here somehow. And it's not just to meet something that someone else said, there's actual purpose, and we're trying to find that purpose. If I've ever given you information and you've had difficulty finding that purpose, first of all, the question comes, did I not present it to you in a way that allows you to see the greater purpose? Or are you not allowing yourself to see the greater purpose? And that being said, if neither, well then, that's a challenge, isn't it? It's always hard to learn. But it's always a two-way street whenever we're trying to grow and learn from one another, that we have to be looking for the opportunity to grow, to learn, to expand, to work hard, and sometimes we can't see the immediate benefit right in front of us. I know that when I took calculus in high school, I never liked calculus. I never understood calculus, but I never thought to say out loud, why are we doing this? Why is this so important? Why do we have to do this? Oh, I thought it, but I thought it from a standpoint of, I don't get it. I don't understand why this is important, as opposed to, why is this important? Why do we have to do this? There's a difference. And we all can go there, and it's a dangerous place to be. And it blocks achievement. It blocks the ability to grow, to learn, to be creative. We must get away from those moments and focus on the curiosity and the want to get better, and saying, this is where I am. This is what I have to do right now. Let's get through this, and I'll focus on whatever comes next when that time comes. Okay? And there's no question about it. There's nothing that I have ever done that hasn't had some frustration along the way in order to make it more beneficial to me in the long run, and to grow and to get better. And I think it's true for all of us. Cultural activities, experiencing perspectives and traditions of others, opens us to new ideas and ways of being, reminding us of beauty in the world. It's always amazing to me whenever I'm around someone who's never seen something before, never seen a particular culture, in terms of traveling somewhere, just watching a documentary on TV. Now that we're in quarantine, there's so many things that are available to us both online as well as looking at documentaries we can watch on TV. And a lot of times the last thing I want to do when I'm stressed out or worn down is to watch a documentary or read about a different culture or something that someone else is doing to expand upon tradition and something that's built upon a way of life for where they are and who they are and the family that they're involved with and society where they live, that's very different from something that we know. And it's in those moments that as we explore other possibilities and it reminds us there is something greater, it becomes much easier to focus on more where we are. A lot of times, just simply opening ourselves to other cultural aspects and cultural ideas doesn't necessarily change us from the standpoint of taking on other cultural ideas, but it reminds us of the need to be within our own culture, to be looking to grow it, to be looking to improve upon it, to be looking to involve ourselves with others. And that is something that has to be an ongoing process. And that's how we see greater beauty in the world. Uh, and of course, community activities. For those of us who can sometimes be more introverted, some people are very social and prefer to be in groups and be working with others. But at times, it's not so much. It's important to force ourselves to be engaging and interacting with other people, and even people who sometimes say that they are social often are guilty. And actually, all of us are guilty of this, not just anyone who says they're social, but guilty of going out there and actually socializing only with the same people, only the same type of people, only opening ourselves up to hanging out with certain people, as opposed to getting to know others and actually learning from a broader range of individuals and groups. And that's something that God calls us to do, I believe, in opening ourselves up to serving more people and helping more people. And if we don't expose ourselves to more relationships, we can't do that. New learning of any kind adds meaning, adds value, increases knowledge, teaches critical thinking and evaluation. And it's often been said that people who have the most creative thinking, who actually help themselves grow intellectually, who grow the most intellectually, have the most hobbies, the most interests, the most variable concepts that they're constantly pursuing and being involved in and being curious about. Moving that to vocational well-being, and I thought I'd actually made this PowerPoint so each point would pop up one at a time rather than all at once, but there it is. Finding balance in your life with vocational well-being from a full-time occupation. That could be whether you work right now full-time, you go to school full-time, you do your volunteer work, or you're a parent. Any of those things. Anything is full-time with full-time responsibilities. All those things. We want to be finding balance in our lives with things that align with our skills and values. Something that challenges us, allows us to make an impact, and provides fulfillment. A lot of it is our responsibility to find those things. We can't be expecting it to be given to us. We all do that. We expect things to be meaningful in themselves as opposed to opening ourselves up to the meaning. We expect things to give us value rather than allowing ourselves to try to see the value or looking for the value. And we have to be doing both parts of that. Sometimes things will just be right there in front of us. And we get more skillful by playing with something that's just fun to do. Giving our values become clear to us. Challenge is somehow easy, but the majority of the time, we have to be looking harder and working harder at things to be able to see the value, to be able to get the benefit from the challenge, in order to be able to make a true impact and gain fulfillment for ourselves, let alone for other people. At work, our ambition, our drive must be present. If we're not ambitious and we don't have that drive, well, we probably don't have clear enough goals, but we're trying to accomplish. And we got to make sure those goals align with our workplace, or either we don't need to leave the workplace or we need to figure out a way to make it better, but not to challenge the workplace from the standpoint of trying to make something change that isn't going to be changed. We have to be accepting of some things as well. One of the greatest ways to frustrate ourselves is to be overly concerned with ideas or concepts that can't be changed and won't be changed. Being accepting of those things that are and actually working through them and then getting past them, and we can find more fulfillment in the next thing, right? Adding value to ourselves and our organization and those the organization serves. And that doesn't come from every moment of everything we ever do. Sometimes it's reminding ourselves of the overall overriding goal. Sometimes it's the immediate goal in front of us where the value and the benefit is. Allowing ourselves to achieve our goals in life come from our job in many ways, from the standpoint of having enough money that from our job. Well, we don't want to be worshiping money for itself in itself for any reason or looking for just material possessions. That being said, God does not want that from us. That being said, I don't believe. That being said, it's important to make enough money to have a life so that we can actually go out there and gain benefit and actually enjoy our lives, which comes with the financial well-being as well. But we want to be getting paid for the work that we perform. We don't really get to a place, a lot of people do this at work. They do it at any place. They do it at school, in classes. They do it in their volunteer work sometimes, less or so there because they're volunteering, but usually anything they're paid for or required to do, something that's a requirement. People get caught up in requirements sometimes and they say, I don't want that as a requirement. I don't like that as a requirement. and they don't want to do that further work. Or they fight through the requirements, fight through that work, whatever it might be, despite the frustration, which is good. But they get to a place and say, I'm there. I've arrived. Now I deserve this. We've all done that. Most people will say in most institutions, people rise to the level of their inability. I mean, they get promoted until all of a sudden they can't do the job anymore. And that's unfortunate, but it is very, very common. Uh, we never get to rest. There is no rest. There's breaks here and there, but there is no actual rest. It's always a process. It's always a process of becoming better than we are, working harder, working more clearly, working better in some aspects. And when we have difficulty seeing that, we need to take a step back, give ourselves a bit of a break, maybe a lot of a break. Maybe it's go get a good night's sleep. It's an old Irish proverb that a good night's rest and a good laugh are the best cures for anything. Distract yourself. I've had a couple of you here and there concerned with the level of work that needs to be done in our class, or something with the paper, with the project, whatnot, and that's perfectly reasonable to have concerns. It is not okay to not be willing to do the work. It is perfectly okay to talk to me as much as you need to help work through it. It's the same with any relationship, familial, work, friend, any situation where we have difficulties with the work we're currently facing in having to deal with it. We talk to others about how to deal with it, not talk to others about how to avoid it or get around it. There's a big difference there. That saying, that said, our feeling of purpose and meaning, it shouldn't be just a job, in my opinion. Some people say a job is just a job. That's fair enough, but it should somehow provide end value for you to keep growing and improving. And if your job isn't just a job, as you call it, or it has something more meaningful for you, it should be something we are growing and improving from, not something we just drudge through, except for in the short term. Let's be really clear. There are times in our lives we will have work, and it just kind of more or less said it with some of the school stuff too, but true at the workplace, when work is just work. It happens. But because you see the greater end goal, something greater at the end, you keep pushing through. You may not seeing it right in front of you. A good job or workplace should provide, or even a school, provide opportunities for advancement, something you get a chance to grow from and do more, greater roles, the duties, responsibilities to contribute. Researching and learning, keeping an open and eager mind at work or school provides dividends at work and beyond. If we can't see that work we do now doesn't have dividends later on, then we're not working hard enough at learning from what we're doing right now. It's just that simple. Connection with others, working as a team, working with others, subordinates, peers, supervisors, people below us, people at the same level, people above us, allows us to use our strengths and the strengths of others. That's the benefit of a team, isn't it? To be something greater, to make something greater, we can always do more with more people if we work well with one another. And enjoyment, enthusiasm for work doesn't always come easy. There's no question about it. Often requires focusing on things that are on the items we talked about just a moment before to define or remind us of our purpose and our goals. Sometimes you remind yourself, there's an end here, there's a purpose here, I'm doing something here. When I would do a calculus equation, doing derivatives and not understanding how to do derivatives, I knew there was something more I'm gaining from this. This work and this understanding is going to build something for me. I haven't seen it yet. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm going to keep working through it. In many ways, I never found it because it was so difficult for me to do, but I accepted it. Acceptance of some work is required, right? Expectation of driving desire to tell others what you do for a living. If you don't love to tell people what you do for a living, in this case where you are, where you go to school, or what classes you're taking, and how cool the classes are, there's a twofold part to that, right? It's either one, we're not working it hard enough with getting enough out of what we do, or we need to be doing something else. And that's the question we always have to ask ourselves. It's either do something else, work hard at what you do, or find another place where maybe you can actually get that value if the place where you are is not doing so. But we have to first talk to our peers, talk to our subordinates, talk to our supervisors, talk to friends and colleagues around us to be clear. It's not just us having a hard time with something right now. We're not just dealing with some situation that's challenging that we can get through in the next day or a couple of weeks, right? As opposed to something that is something much, much broader and deeper, in which case we need to seek work someplace else. For financial well-being, our final area, other than the spiritual well-being, which we are tying together with all aspects of well-being, we want to have ultimately security in our personal familial finances to meet our vital needs. meet having a home, be able to afford food, be able to afford paying the bills, basic stuff, and the freedom of choice to do things we want, to travel, to have all the channels on cable, to be able to buy nice things for your house, not just the stuff you need, but nice things for your house, to be able to give more to your spouse and your kids, all those things, not just the basics, but more things. And I think that God wants us to be able to do that, right? As long as we're doing it along the right way, as long as we are truly giving enough to get and to receive. We have to give in order to receive, right? Proactive financial behaviors and actions that are day to day in finding and processing and using relevant information. That's what God wants us to do, right? And we're trying to make our lives better for ourselves with our financial pursuits, from our vocation and from what we do on a day to day basis to deserve it, to be able to make the most of it for ourselves and for our families. Because we want to have that close, happy family. Who doesn't want to have that in the people that they're around, to take care of the people that they love? Who doesn't want that, right? Whoever that might be. The greatest source of marital and familial stress, any kind of family, not just with your spouse, but familiar or close people who are close to each other, live with one another. You could say roommates and are much more um, closer to home, maybe for some of you right now, if you're not yet married and living with your spouse at the moment. That said, stress historically comes first, not or foremost, from money. We're not talking enough about it. We're not clear enough about it. We're not clear about the similar goals between one another, clear on what we're trying to do right now. We need to have at least monthly, certainly, arguably, maybe quarterly for some people, but probably at least monthly, maybe even weekly, and daily is a bit much. But then again, hey, if that's something that works for you, that's something that two of you or multiple of you need, then so be it. Well-being and progress, we have to know what we financially need in order to have the lives we need to live. God doesn't want us to be unable to do what we need to do. I don't believe that. That being said, we will have to work for it. That's expected. But we won't be able to do that if we don't, unless we know what we need and can define that properly, so that we can go out there and seek and find it. Having more than owing and giving more than we may receive. Lot of people, most people in their lives will be upset at some point in their lives. Right now, it could be with a grade you're not getting, it could be with the work you have to do, just like in the workplace, with maybe not getting enough money from the job that you do, you're not getting enough value and from what you do, at the point where you don't feel like you're being paid what you're worth, whatnot. Uh, the first thing we have to be doing in those moments is give more. We can still question. We can still look for help. We can still ask ask your concerns, ask how you can get through your challenges and overcome your obstacles, and look for help. But we look for help first from the one who is putting it upon us. Whether that's your boss, whether that is your peer that actually you're supposed to be in a team, or whoever it might be, we go to the source. That's where we start, and we go every which way we possibly can before we ever pursue looking for other ways to change direction or to seek help outside of that immediate source or need. That said, most cases, almost all cases, we really take a closer look at ourselves, that we're not giving enough. I'm always looking at that. I'm never giving enough. I always want to be giving more, and that's okay. But we have to be looking to make sure we deserve what we receive. And if we're not getting enough, what we feel like we should be getting, we're probably not yet giving enough. We have to find other ways to do that. That said, some debt's normal, some's debilitating. Hey, girl.
Where's Gabby?
I don't know where the cat is. The cat, actually, she might be on the couch. Go take a look on the couch.
I'll go take
The realities of life. That said, we have to know the difference from the standpoint of what's important debt and what debt is something that's debilitating. Credit card debt is debilitating. Some credit card debt is okay, but can we afford to pay that off? Can we pay it off in a few months? Okay. It's going to take us several years. That's going to be too much debt for us to overcome. And we have to do what we have to do in the moment. But at the same time, we have to be aware that this is going to cause us hardship down the road and could potentially create familial stress that could be hard to overcome. And that said, debt from like owning a home, student loans, some things are virtually virtually unavoidable, unless we are actually have been willing to put in a lot of time and effort early on before buying that home, so we can actually buy it straight cash, or we have opportunities given to us from other people who can help us out, so be it. But for the most part, Some debt is very normal. Other debt we have to avoid. We want to be able to save some for a rainy day so that our family is secure and safe down the road. Yes, Maddie, just a moment, please. You found the cat on the ottoman? Okay, thank you. Got to know where you could find the cat. Um, we can't truly get what we really want until we've given enough to others of what they need and want. In that moment, my daughter would rather be focused on where the cat is. We're trying to do a lecture video for a class. We all have things we want. We have to balance the things we want within the context of what everyone else wants. That's such a hard thing to do. It's not as simple as my life is difficult. I want everything to be able to make things better for me. And that recognition, that acceptance is crucial for us to grow, for us to get better. Not getting what we want or need financially, then we need to find a way now to be giving more than we are. And it has to be that way from a standpoint of giving more effort to finding another opportunity for another job someplace else, or for gaining money from some other source, asking for help from God, asking for help from others, but seeking more effort on our own to be looking for avenues in the ways that we are currently not now. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result, isn't it? That said, does God want us to be poor? I don't believe so. We talk a lot about, we cite various areas of the Bible where it seems to be at times that God is saying to us we should be poor. It's not that. It's that God wants us to be putting others first, to be putting the value of each other, the value of helping one another far and above just making money and having things. Okay. Adding it all together, asking some key questions, trying to bring some clear thoughts to ourselves. Will God ask us in the end if we found joy in our lives, if we brought joy to others? I think that's probably a pretty fair question. Are we making those efforts on a daily basis in all aspects of these well-being areas? It's not just a matter of a couple things. It's all things. It's who we are physically. It's who we are in communicating with another interpersonally and socially. It's who we are emotionally and how we handle stress and what we deal with things that we face each day. It's who we are from a financial standpoint, who we are with our job. It's who we are from a standpoint of in our intellectual pursuits and who we are in a relationship with God. Does God give us the patience that we need, or does God challenge us with opportunities to be patient? I've always loved that idea, that our tasks that we must face to overcome, to get our goals, to meet our rewards, to get what we're achieving is often not clear in front of us. It requires us to buckle down, to deal with and be persistent in situations that we can grow from later that we can't necessarily see right now. How often does God make rewards only 3 feet away? If only we'll keep going despite the immense obstacles we face. Such a great analogy kind of to end our course with the idea that sometimes those things that we're looking for are right in front of us. We just have to keep going. We just have to keep putting in that work, and that usually includes in that moment when we struggle, like Darby struggled, being 3 feet from gold, just didn't know it, sold the mine, and then went off and did some other work and lost millions of dollars from the gold that he didn't find that was just 3 feet below when he said he couldn't find any more gold. Well, he learned from that, and he actually went on to having a very successful career in something else, in selling insurance. And the people who bought the mine, they understood they needed to be actually pursuing. Maddie, take the cat out. Well, go away, please, so the cat doesn't come in here, please. Thank you. That they basically, the people who bought the mine, they actually realized they need to be seeking the pursuit of intellectual help for people who knew how to find the gold. They couldn't just do it themselves. A lot of times when we have difficulties, we need to be looking for opportunities for people who can help us that know more than we do, have a greater specialization, can do more. That could be friends, that could be family, that could be coworkers, that could be people who've been entrepreneurs in given areas, but those are the things we need to be doing. I love that I'm finishing with the cat noises. I'm assuming you can hear that. Maddie, please, please go in the living room so that I'll be out there in just a moment, okay? Remember the upcoming dates of importance. You've got your final projects here to do. I'll have to go back to my familial challenges, all good things, but challenges. Just like you will have to go back, get some of this work done, only a little longer. You'll have to go a little bit more. Your struggles, your challenges, you're dealing with everything you have to deal right now are very, very close. It's going to require a big push, a big uptick. It's like your last set's your most difficult set. It's going to be a tough one. I know it's going to be a tough one. Call me or email me. I hear sometimes people telling me someone else is bothered by something or challenged by something, and I don't understand that. I will never understand you not calling and asking for help. That's what you need to do. If you have difficulty with anything in this class, please let me know. I want to help you with your paper, with any preparing for your quiz. That's pretty light, all things comparison, I think. Your paper, your and ultimately your project. Okay. Uh, what didn't get changed on here that I thought I'd changed on here is that not rough draft paper. You already did that. You'll have just one more post this week. One post. One final post. It's going to be due by Friday. Okay. And then it's 4/24. And then on by 26th on Sunday, you will have to be turning in you're already putting up all your posts. Your quiz will be available on Thursday, which is actually the 23rd. Okay, you can take it right then, which I recommend. 30 questions, like always, for the last spirituality quiz. You can do it all the way till 5/1 if you want. Okay, if you put it off, you want to take it right away if you want to, which I recommend. Don't confuse me giving you more dates. That means you have to be putting it into later time. You get it done right away if you want. And then your paper, which you should be mostly done with anyway, because the rough draft has already been mostly done. Your final paper is due by a little over a week away, Friday the 1st. But again, you can do it sooner. The Wellbeing Project, Diet Project, is really the handbook, the guidebook to everything that you've put together for this class. And I want you to define it with a minimum of between some visual representations and some explanations, some written. Probably the more visual you can make it for like a way of going about things to be more, achieve more physical well-being, emotional well-being, social and interpersonal well-being, vocational, uh, intellectual, and financial and spiritual, all those things. It's running out of fingers there. But basically, every area of well being and tying it together so that something can be used for someone saying, here's what you do to help you get started. Okay, not the end all be all. And this is going to help you along the process, and you're going to grow and get ideas of your own with this. But this is where I want you to start with. Okay. I've enjoyed teaching this course. I've enjoyed working with you. I've enjoyed reading your posts, and so many of you, if you shared so much about what's going on with you and how you're challenged to achieve higher levels of well-being. We all are. I am, certainly on an ongoing basis. I think challenges of recent, of course, have challenged us in many ways that I'm sure none of us could really fully anticipate. Call or email me if you have questions, if you need help. That's what I'm here for. That's my job. I wish you nothing but the best. I wish we could have more time together. Uh, that being said, sometimes I don't believe that all things come to an end or all good things come to an end. This one for me is coming to an end. I hope this has been a good thing for you, regardless. I want it to be something you've grown from and gained a lot from. I wish you nothing but the best. Take care of yourselves. Let me know how I can help you. Thank you.